Stop telling people more than they need to know. On the edge of an old bridge, under dim lamps hanging from rusted posts, a rickety horse-drawn carriage came to a stop on a bleak winter night. The rushing water under the bridge mingled with the howling wind, as though nature itself was warning travelers of lurking secrets in the darkness. At that moment, Adrian stepped out of the carriage, stretching his hands toward a warmth he had lost in his heart before losing it to the cold night air. In the faint lamplight, a mysterious confusion showed on Adrian's face. He tried to recall when he first felt that his tongue raced ahead of his heart, blurting out every burden in his soul. Every time he complained or revealed his problems and thoughts to passersby or friends, hoping for help or empathy, he got only curious stares, sometimes even mockery. Adrian murmured ruefully, "What can't I resist spilling all my secrets, as though I'm selling my soul to people who don't deserve it?" The stranger on the bridge. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed an elderly man standing at the far end of the bridge, transfixed by the dark waters below. Adrian approached him cautiously and noticed in the man's features an air of both dignity and sorrow. He felt as if he were looking at a reflection of his own helplessness. Adrian said softly, "Sir, do you need help? It looks like the cold has gotten to you." The man lifted his head, and silence hung for a moment before he gave a faint smile. Uncertainty chills the soul more than the wind chills the body. But tell me, young man, can you truly listen without casting judgment? Adrian hesitated briefly, then replied, "I might be good at listening, but will it truly help you if you open up?" The older man shrugged, as if to say, "It makes no difference to me," then slowly turned and walked away, heading to the far side of the bridge. Adrian remained there, torn between curiosity and unease. Before he could call out, the man vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only the roar of rushing water and the glow of the lamps, which had turned even yellower. The spiral of oversharing. Adrian reflected on his recent life. How many times had he revealed family secrets to people he barely knew? How many times had he confessed his financial woes to those who found mere entertainment in his weakness? Even his relationship with his fiancée, he scattered its details among his peers, hoping for advice or support, only to see his words leak from one mouth to the next, eroding all trust he had tried to build with that woman. In a sudden flash, a childhood memory crossed his mind. When he was 8, he confided in a neighbor's son about his fear of the dark and how his father would shout at night. The very next day, word got around the neighborhood, and some kids used it to taunt him. He had felt crushing shame back then. Yet, here he was, repeating the same mistake over and over. The startling truth: hours later, the horse-drawn carriage brought him back to his neighborhood. There, he ran into an old friend named Sam, someone Adrian had long relied on to share stories about his home life and troubles. Sam's face was tense as he approached Sam. "I need to tell you something important." "Adrian, Go on. What is it, Sam? Word about your latest argument with your fiancé has spread to your entire family. And not only that, some people at the market have heard too. It's a mess, and I heard her say she can't trust someone who spills all their relationship secrets to strangers. Adrian felt as if the world went dark. He realized he was the one who had betrayed himself. Adrian, how did they find out? Did you tell them? Sam nervously. I didn't mean to spread it. I talked about what you told me with someone I thought was trustworthy. But they let it slip. Now everything's fallen apart. Adrian's heart pounded as he realized he'd given the secret away, then blamed others for a revelation he'd done nothing to prevent. The crushing shock. The next morning, a pale-faced messenger arrived at Adrian's door, breathless with urgency. He informed Adrian that his father had collapsed in the family home and was gravely ill from worry and humiliation. Word of their family's issues had traveled far, tarnishing his father's reputation among colleagues and neighbors. Adrian raced across the cobblestone streets to his father's bedside. He found him lying on a narrow bed, weak and silent, his eyes full of reproach. Adrian sank to his knees, searching for words. Adrian, a voice trembling. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have shared all those private things. I never imagined my reckless words could cause you such pain. A silent tear glinted in his father's eyes. Adrian understood how much harm his unguarded tongue had wrought. A philosophical conclusion. That stormy evening, after ensuring his father would be cared for, Adrian departed to the outskirts of the city, where the wind howled across empty fields. Taking shelter beneath a leafless oak, he felt the harsh rain lash at him, each drop a stinging reminder of his mistakes. He recalled the older man on the bridge, who had shared nothing of himself, and yet conveyed a silent wisdom Adrian had failed to grasp. Uncertainty chills the soul. Can a person free themselves from without laying bare their heart every time? In that moment, Adrian finally understood not everything in the heart must be laid bare. Some words can demolish bridges of trust, distort relationships, and sow conflict. The fleeting relief of venting without restraint can easily plant seeds of lasting shame and regret. The moral: we often confuse honesty with having no boundaries. Honesty is a virtue, but it doesn't mean exposing every corner of your soul to every person in every situation. Some parts of yourself must remain private to preserve your dignity, freedom, and self-respect. With the clouds overhead slowly drifting apart, Adrian looked up at the dark sky. He resolved to safeguard his words as he would his most precious treasures, learning that stopping yourself from telling people more than they need to know isn't mere caution. It's an act of self-preservation and respect for those you love. Freed from the weight of endless confessions, he headed home, ready to mend what could be mended and remain silent about the rest.